What's up everybody, Straw Hats Are Cool here, and we are back again with another video. Today we are going to be hopping on the rank sim and playing some games, this time with the newly released Boa Hancock leader. Before we get into today's video, as always, I just want to thank everyone who has been supporting me in the channel of recently. This last week especially, we've had quite a lot of growth and we did hit 2,500 subscribers. It's a pretty big milestone for me, and I just want to take a minute to thank all of you who've been supporting the channel and enjoying the content. So if you're not already subscribed to the channel and you're enjoying the content, please do consider subscribing to the channel, as now we're on our way to 3,000 subscribers. Another next big milestone we're looking to hit. So if you're enjoying the content, I really would appreciate it. Additionally, we do have a Discord, and with the release of OP07 happening this Friday, should be tomorrow at the time this video goes live, I'm hoping to get my hands on a little bit of product and do some giveaway for some packs over there on the Discord. So if you've not already joined the Discord, link for that will be in the video description. Additionally, I've got a TCG player affiliate link if you're looking to buy any new cards from OP07. If you use that link and buy any cards, a small percentage of your purchase will go towards supporting me in the channel. But with all that out of the way, let's dive right into the deck breakdown. So Boa Hancock is a new mono blue leader to be released from OP07. It is a standard monocolor leader with 5,000 power and 5 life. It's got a during your turn once per turn effect that states you may activate this when a character leaves play from one of your abilities. So what means when a character leaves play, that could be one of your own characters or one of your opponent's characters. As long as any character is being removed from play through one of your effects, you get to activate it. And it states that if you have 5 or less cards in hand, you get to draw a card. So kind of similar to some other blue leaders we have, like the blue-purple croc, in that you can get some additional card draw is one of the big draws to playing blue in general. Though in order to activate this effect, you do have to have something removed from play through an effect. Keep in mind that battle is not an effect, so if you KO a character in battle, that does not count as being removed by one of your effects, so you will not get to proc the leader ability here. But with any of your bottom decking or bouncing type effects, you will get to activate this effect to draw a card, so long as you have 5 or less cards in hand. So kind of the way that I think you need to build this deck is you do run a higher count of 2k counters than some other decks, but the reason for this is that we want to have 5 or less cards in hand most turns. So we generally don't want to be taking hits just so we can have the extra cards, because we can get that extra card draw off our leader effect, and we want those 2k so we can counter out of as many 7k attacks as we can. Because in a way, because we're getting to draw an additional card every turn so long as we get to activate our effect, we're essentially drawing 2 cards a turn instead of 1, which means we can more easily counter out of 7k attacks with 2 cards than other decks, because we'll still get to maintain our hand size, almost like we were countering out with just 1 card. So what are we running to line the deck up? Well, we're mostly running a Warlord package, pretty similar to what Mono Blue Doflamingo would be running. The first card we've got in the deck, we've only got it at 2 copies, but it is the Edward Weevil from EB01. This is a 4th cost 6,000 power character with an on play draw a card. So just some more card draw for the deck. Really, we're going to be looking to play this one alongside the newly released Jinbei, which we'll be talking about here shortly. But just a nicely statted character that replaces itself on play. We've also got one of the best cards in blue, in my opinion. This card's been in just about every blue deck since the game released. This is a card from set 1. It is the Doflamingo, 3 cost 4,000 power character with 1k counter as well as blocker, and an on play effect that allows us to look at the top 5 cards of our deck and reorder them on the top or bottom of our deck. So just kind of helps us think turns ahead, and because we do get to draw with our leader ability, this can help us draw key cards at the key moment in the game. So very nice card. And sometimes, you're just gonna have a bunch of dead cards on the top and you can send them to the bottom. Just helps fix your draws a lot, helps a lot with consistency. We're also running 2 copies of the Kaya, one of the best 2K counters in blue, though this one does not have the Warlord typing. It's a 1-cost character with 0 power, 2K counter as we mentioned, and an on play allows us to draw 2 and trash 1. So if we've got kind of a dead hand, we can use this to filter some of those dead cards out, hopefully find cards with counter or just something to play on that given turn. But like I said, we are only running at 2 because there are some other 2K counters that I do think we want to be running in this deck as well. You could definitely just drop one of the other 2K counters and bump this up to 4 if you would like, but I was trying to split of a couple different 2K counters that we'll talk more about here in just a minute. We've also got 3 copies of the 10-drop Kaido from OP04. This is a 12,000 power character, no counter, and an on play that allows you to return up to one of your opponent's 8 cost or less, and up to one of your, or it's not specifically opponent, I guess I should say, return 1 character with a cost of 8 or less, and 1 character with a cost of 3 or less to the owner's hand. So typically when we play this, we're going to be wanting to bounce one of our opponent's 8 cost or higher, and for the 3 cost or lower, sometimes you're going to bounce nothing with that. Sometimes your opponent will have something that you do want to bounce back. And sometimes you might even be bouncing back one of your own characters just to keep it back in your hand as counter. So very versatile card, but it is a dead card in hand and we can't play it till we're on 10. I was running it this at 4, but I did drop it down to 3 because I felt like I was seeing it too much in moments where it wasn't good. So I did drop it down to 3 copies. But you could definitely bump it up to 4 if you would like. We're running 4 copies of the Charlotte Pudding from OP06. This is one of the most obnoxious cards that Blue has in their arsenal, and one of the reasons you would want to play Blue, I think. This card can oftentimes just win you the game all on its own by destroying your opponent's setup. So it's a 4-cost, 4,000 power character with 1K counter. And the on play states that your opponent has to return all their cards from their hand to their deck, shuffle, and then they draw 5 new cards. So if your opponent's got a large hand, this card can be extremely devastating. Really good in the Black Yellow Luffy matchup, Bonney matchup, any matchup where they like to be building a large hand size. This card's absolutely incredible in. Not one that you're probably going to want to play a lot in the red purple law matchup, as generally they keep their hand size around 5 cards anyways. You could bump this down to 3, make room for something else, maybe another 2K. I'm running it 4 right now. I think this card's really good, and it's not searchable, so we do want to see it when we want it. And worst case scenario, it's still got 1K counter. Next up, we've got Crocodile. This is a new 2K counter card that was released in OP07 alongside the Boa Hancock leader. It's a 4-cost, 5,000 power character, which is a nice stat line, especially for a 2K counter. And it also has an on play. We may pay 1 and return up to 1 2-cost or lower character to its owner's hand. So, pretty flexible card. Sometimes this can bounce a low-cost blocker back to your opponent's hand, or it can even just bounce back maybe a Kaya or something that you played down, a Sengoku. Just get it back to hand so you can either play it again or just have it in hand as counter. Just a really nice 2K counter, and because you are returning something to the owner's hand, this is an effect that will also proc your leader effect if you've got 5 or less cards in hand. Next up, we've got the Jinbei. We mentioned this one with the Edward Weevil. It's another new character from OP07. 4-cost, 5,000 power, 1K counter. Kind of noticing a trend with a lot of these 7 Warlord type characters in blue being 4-cost, 5,000 power with counter. And this one has an on-play effect that states we may play up to 1 4-cost or lower 7 Warlords of the Sea type character other than Jinbei from your hand. So we can play out the Edward Weevil, as we mentioned, is one of the best cards to pair alongside this. You can play out Crocodile, Doflamingo, some of the other cards. We'll get into it here in just a minute. But just a nice card that helps us go wide, especially earlier in the game, which is important in the black matchup especially. As oftentimes playing one card a turn just isn't enough in that matchup because they are able to efficiently clear our bodies through their very strong cost reduction and removal effects. So being able to swarm the board with Jinbei is especially important, like we said in this black matchup, and it's just really good in general, is allowing us to go get 2 bodies on board as soon as turn 2 is really nice. We've also got Sengoku. This is a new searcher from OP07. Very standard stat line for a searcher at 1 cost 2000 power with 1k counter. And this one allows us to look at the top 5 for a 7 warlords at the TC type character. So that's just about every card in our deck. The one thing to keep in mind though is that this cannot search any of our removal events, which are one of the main reasons we would be running the Boa Hancock leader. So it can be a little bit frustrating if you end up bottom decking a bunch of your removal events, which is a really nice consistency piece that helps us find our 7 warlord type characters. So we're running it at 4, as the majority of this deck is 7 warlords of the C type. So just some added consistency there. To be honest, I feel like you could drop the number of Sengokus you're running down and potentially make room for something else, maybe even just more 2k counters, because a lot of the time it just feels a little extra. Sometimes it's nice and you do need to search, but I feel like maybe you could bump this down to 2 or 3 copies and you'd still be okay. I haven't played too many games with the deck yet though, so this is just kind of like my early thoughts on it. Next up, we've got another new card from OP07, and in the games I've played, this is probably my favorite card in the deck. This is Trafalgar Law, a 4-cost 4000 power character with 2k counter. So a little bit worse stat line, but it is a 2k counter. But I really like the effect on this one, and I played it out quite a lot in the games that I've played so far. So it's got an activate main, so you can play this out and just activate the effect later if you want. You return this character to the owner's hand, and then if your opponent has 6 or more cards in hand, they place 1 card from their hand at the bottom of their deck. Really nice effect, and what's really cool about this is that if you use this effect to return him to your hand, that does activate Boa's leader effect, because a character is leaving play through one of your effects. Law is being returned to your hand, thus leaving play. So you get to proc the leader effect to draw a card, so long as after Law's back in your hand you have 5 or less cards. So if you need to activate this effect when you have 4 or less cards in hand. But really nice because your opponent's going -1 in hand, whereas you're getting this back to hand and going +1 if you get to draw off your leader effect. Really incredible, especially in the Black Yellow Luffy matchup. This is just something you can play out. Oftentimes they're going to have 6 or more cards in hand. You get to draw a card, they lose a card. It's exactly what we want in that matchup. You can play it early off of, or you can play it alongside Jinbei, so you're still getting a body, activate its effect. Just very versatile card. I love it. I think it's the best card in the deck in my experience so far. Just a very annoying card, especially when you get to play it out, swing with it, then activate the effect. It just feels so good to play. Absolutely love this card. We've also got, of course, the new SR Boa Hancock herself. This is a 6-cost 8000 power character. No counter, of course, as it does have that vanilla stat line. Its on-play effect states that up to one of your opponent's characters, other than Monkey D. Luffy, cannot attack until the end of their next turn. And then you may also place a 1-cost or lower character at the bottom of the deck. So the secondary effect may not even always come up, but it is another effect that means a character is being removed from play, and thus you can get the draw off of your leader effect, again, so long as you have 5 or less cards in hand. So you can get rid of one of your opponent's searchers or something, and sometimes you'll even target your own Sengoku so you can get the additional draw off it, especially if he's not there doing anything for you. You can target your own Sengoku, send him to the bottom, draw a card. Again, so long as you have 5 or less cards in hand. I feel like I'm saying that a lot, but it is something to remember. I think that's the biggest thing you need to remember, is you need to constantly be thinking about how can I stay at 5 or less cards in hand? Because you want to be drawing that extra card every turn. If you're not doing that, there's basically no reason to be playing this leader, because you're essentially just running a vanilla blue leader, and that's just terrible. So you want to make sure you're always getting to use this every turn, if you can. We've got 4 copies of the starter deck Gecko Moria, 4 cost, 5,000 power, 1k counter. Very, like I said, run-of-the-mill stat line for 7 Warlords of the Sea type characters. We get to add up to 1 7 Warlords of the Sea type character or a Thriller Bark type character that cost 4 or less other than Gecko Moria back to our hand. Great way to get back 2k counters. You can't grab back the Boa Hancock, unfortunately, but all of our other stuff, you can grab back the Laws, Dofies if you need a blocker, Jinbei if we need to fill the board. Just a very versatile card, and it helps us keep our hand advantage, which is really all we're trying to do with this deck. We want to build a board and maintain hand advantage over our opponent. We've got 2 copies of the Dracula Mihawk from the starter deck as well. We're really only running this one as it is another 7 Warlords of the Sea type 2k counter. The effect on this one, Dawn ×1 when attacking, draw 2 trash 1, doesn't really come up too often. You're really not trying to play this one out, but it is another 2k counter option that is searchable, and it's a card we can grab back with Gecko Moria as well. The last character we're running in the deck is another 2k counter. This is the Charlotte Pudding from the Zoro Sanji starter deck. It's a 2 cost, 2000 power character with 2k counter, and an activate main that states we can return this character to our hand. So it seems like a pretty pointless effect, but there are times when you don't really have anything better to do, and you can just play this out, bounce it back to hand, and draw a card off your leader effect, since again, you're returning a card or you're removing a character from play through one of your effects, so you get to activate that leader effect. So if you've got 5 cards in hand, you can play out the pudding, bounce it back to hand, you get to keep that 2k counter, and then you get to draw a card. So kind of similar to Law, except there's no real upside if you're not doing anything to your opponent, but it can just be a cheap little way to draw an extra card if you need it. The last cards we're running are going to be 3 copies of Red Rock and 2 copies of the Gravity Blade Raging Tiger. These are our key removal events. Red Rock, you're going to want to see to bottom deck those top end characters. Most of those cards right now are going to be in green. We're thinking the 10-drop Doflamingo, Eustace Captain Kidd, the 9-drop Zoro. Really good in yellow as well, hitting those 10-drop aces, Yamatos, anything high cost, this will deal with easily. Also got a nice trigger effect that allows us to bottom deck a 4-cost or less. And then the Gravity Blade is just one of the best cards in this deck. We get to remove not 1, but 2 6-cost or lower characters. And in most decks in the current format, that's going to be hitting the majority of your opponent's characters. Really good in the green matchup, as so long as you rest all your characters before you play this, you can even remove the Basil Hawkins from play, which for most decks is a card they can't deal with. Really good in Red Purple Law. It hits everything they're playing, as I don't think they run anything higher than a 5-cost generally. So just very versatile card, very powerful card. Removes characters from play, so we get to draw off our leader effect. Just best card in the deck, and kind of one of the reasons you would play the Boa Hancock leader, in my opinion, is for this card alone. So that's my build for the deck list. I do think there are a couple other cards you could consider running. The first one is the OP07 Dracula Mihawk, 9 cost, 9,000 power. On play, you bottom deck a 7. So again, you're removing something from play, so you do get to draw off your leader effect. But the thing is, there aren't too many 7-cost characters that are relevant in the current format. Most of the time, you're probably better off removing 2 things with Gravity Blade. So for that reason, I'm not running the Mihawk. You could sub this in over the Kaido, but I feel like being able to hit an 8 is just so much better than a 7. Even though it might not feel great, returning something like a Gecko Moria back to your opponent's hand can be enough to buy you another turn, which is pretty nice. So for that reason, I'm not running the Mihawk, but it's definitely something you could consider. Also, the Soga King, if I had room, I definitely wanted to try this card out. It does have a really bad stat line at 7 cost, 6,000 power. It does have counter, but the on-play effect's nice, allows you to bounce a 6 cost or less, and then you get to draw 2 and trash 2. I have found that there are times when the deck just kind of bricks up and you're not able to remove all of the cards from your hand, and it makes it very difficult to activate your leader effect, especially when you draw too many Red Rocks or Kaidos in matchups where they're not relevant. And having this might be a nice way to fix that problem, but it is, like I said, a pretty poor stat line, so I wasn't running it in this build, but I do think it's definitely worth trying out if you want to play with some other cards. Borsalino is another interesting card. I've seen some decks playing it. I don't think it's very good. It does have a pretty nice stat line at 7 cost, 8,000 power, and the on play allows you to bottom deck a 4. And bottom decking a 4 is really nice, and in a lot of matchups, like especially ones like Red Purple Law, just bottom decking a 4 is going to be good enough. But in a lot of matchups, it's just a little too slow, I think, as we don't have any ways to ramp in this deck. So at the earliest, we're playing this on turn 4, going second, or turn 4, going either first or second. And yeah, it is a nice body we can play that does remove something, can activate our leader effect, but I don't know, I just think there are better options. It's not searchable. I don't think you want to max on copies of this, and it also doesn't have counter. So we're not running this. The last card that I've seen being played, and personally, I don't like this card in this deck at all. I know it can be good, but I feel like it's very counterintuitive to what the deck is trying to do. This is the Secret Rare Kaido from OP07. 10 cost, 12,000 power, just like the Kaido we're running. But this one's on play. It says that if our opponent has 3 or less life cards, we draw 4. And with the whole, and at least the way I see it, the whole purpose of this deck is we want to be at 5 or less cards going into our turn so we can use our leader effect to draw an extra card. We just want to counter out of all our opponent's attacks, draw a bunch of cards, and remove everything they play. This card, in a way, shuts off your leader effect and doesn't remove anything from play either. Yes, it's a big body and it can help you fill up your hand when you need it, but to me it's just too situational, and it's, like I said, you could just play, you're better off playing any other blue leader if this is the top end card you want to be playing. That's just the way I see it. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. So those are the cards I think are worth considering. Of course, there are probably some other ones that are worth trying out as well. I think those are the big ones though. This is my deck list. This is kind of what I've been liking. It feels pretty good. To be honest, I was pretty down on this deck. I was not looking forward to even trying this one out, but it's been a lot better than I expected. To be fair, I haven't played much against like Red Purple Law, which is probably not a great matchup. It's not as bad as I thought it would be, but this deck does do exceptionally well, I think, into Black, Yellow, Luffy, and Bonney, as you have good ways to remove their stuff and just kind of deal with the way they play. Like I mentioned, the Trafalgar Law is really good in both those matchups, to be totally honest, as they are both decks that often get pretty big on hand size, and just a nice little card that allows you to deal with their hand size without even necessarily attacking. So especially in Black, Yellow, Luffy, that's exactly what we want. So yeah, that's the deck list. Let me know what you think down in the comments. But with all that said, let's go ahead and jump right into some gameplay. Alright, up against Jewelry Bonney. We definitely went second in this one. This can be a good matchup for us, I think. Fido. Set up our draw. Could be worse. I think we'll keep it. Got the Searcher turn 1 now. AK Jinbei. Now we can Jinbei into Dofi. Pretty good. Gonna be swinging 7. That's 9. Let him rest the Sengoku. Okay. Red Rock is good. But I don't think we're gonna play it next turn. I think I'm gonna put this here. That'll be 6 Dawn, 8 Dawn. We'll go like that. We will counter that one. Do Rogue. Swing 7. See what they rest. Probably the Jinbei. Yeah. And now I pudding. Reset that hand. Search with the Bonney. Gives me... I mean, I guess I get to rest something, but fine. That's the rest Apu. I think we will counter that one. Oh, we should use the Kaya. Interesting that they swing with the Rogue as well. I think I will take that one. Second Rogue. Okay. Let's go ahead and swing into the Bonney. Rest the Jinbei. Swing into a Rogue. I don't know, swinging with that seems like a bit of a mistake to me. I can just bottom deck it, draw. I'm just gonna poke another 5. I think this is probably our best matchup, to be honest, though. Because we have a way to remove the Basil Hawkins is what gives us an advantage, I think. We can just turn everything sideways, play an event to get rid of it. Zoro's pretty good, but I've got another Red Rock, so... We're on 10, so I can decide what I draw with another Doflamingo. Probably just make it another 2K. Something like that. Let's go like this. We'll go 5. They actually can't even leader effect. I didn't realize they were on 9. We got rid of the rogue, so can't do nothing about that. I wouldn't be surprised if they scoop as soon as we drop this red rock, to be completely honest. Counter. Bye-bye. Unlike red, purple, all the red rocks are very good in this matchup. I need board space, sure. Go flamingo. Lock up some dudes. That would be funny. Well, that's 6 done. Let's swing some 7s. See what they think about that. Okay. Give him a 6. And a 7. All right. You got him. Oh, they got another 10 drop. Lock up my board again. That's fine. Let's see. What do we got down here? Bay. Sure. Let's do that. Grab back a in bay. In bay play. I've also played a gecko. It's funny because I can bounce this back to hand, draw a card if I need to. Udofis is pretty good. Might be a little too late. Basil, Rosie. Do split my Dawn? Do I just win? 7. I could do a bunch of 8s. 7. Get to rest one of my things though. Just a bunch of 8s. I think that's how that works out. Do some 8s. And they're cooked. That's kind of what I figured. Well, oh, and we had the Red Rock too. Yeah, they were not getting anywhere anytime soon. The 2 Trophies was good for them, but they just couldn't establish anything early, which is what was their downfall, because we do have the ability to go wide through things like Jimbei. So that's going to be it. GG's. All right, we are up against, I believe, is this the same jewelry, Bonney? Choose to go second. Kaido's is a lot. Yeah, I'm gonna mull that. That's a little better. No early plays, but we've got some gravity blades, which are always good. Alright, maybe too many gravity blades now. I don't know what it is with this deck and drawing like 3 of my bricks in the first 3 turns, but I don't know, Red Rock's a pretty good, or Gravity Blade's a pretty good one, especially in this matchup. They are just gonna swing. Put the boa. Swing 5. We can maybe look for something to play off the Jimbei. They just block. And can play that off the Jimbei, but it doesn't do much. I don't know. I'm just gonna pudding them. They've got 7 cards. I can just drop pudding. Swing 5. Counter. Yeah. We can get rid of the basil this turn, but is it worth it? Don't know. Kinda just want to play a boa. Got too many cards to draw. We'll just leave Sengoku. Don't need to bottom him. We can't draw. Want them to play another 6 cost or lower. Would be ideal. That works. The pudding is totally fine. They probably just rest my leader to 9. We attack with Sengoku, that way he's rested and they can't rest it with the Basil Hawkins. Those go away, they have nothing to target, so he will also go away. And then we'll just play out Sengoku. Draw law. Okay, that's pretty good. They are at 10 now, so if they just start playing big stuff, Gravity Blade's kind of useless. Might just be a Doflamingo here. But we can go wide, Gecko, Jinbei, grab back Jinbei, Weevil. Yeah, they are just going to lock us up there. Cool with me. Don't even need to grab back the Jinbei now. Don't really have anything else to grab back. Well, I guess we can start with Jinbei into Weevil, see what we draw. Nothing too helpful there. Play Croc, grab back the Sengoku. Play the Sengoku. Or grab us another. Want 2K or do we want another Boa? Boa. May just be attacking into our Boa. I want to protect it. Kinda. They got another Dofi, that's fine. I suppose. Cody. Okay. You got him. This is interesting. I'll save it. Gonna do baby 5. Okay. We can Boa, bottom deck that. We should swing with this first. They grabbed another Dofi. We'll go 8. Rest one of these, I'm sure. Yeah. We get to go Boa 7/7. Actually wait to do that. Make them scared. Well, now I could go all in. What are the odds they have that? Not great, I don't think. They're also not killing me. So we'll just do that. Oh boy, yeah, they had no counter at all. That's kind of insane. I still would have won even if I did the Boa. 2K counter. Guess that is one of the struggles with Bonney. You do run a lot of bricks and you don't run too many 2Ks, but you are also typically getting to rest something every turn, so that's kind of the balance out of things there. But Yeah, that was a pretty easy win for us. Like I said, Bonney probably Blue's best matchup in the current format.